This is your life. It's yours. No one is going through the exact same things that you are. No one has had the exact life experiences that you have had. They're all specific and they're all special to you. To sort of think that you can mirror that and match that to someone else's current life and past experiences and future goals is disrespectful to yourself.
Good morning, Coach.
Hey, 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 hey.
Hey, hey.
Hey, we're back on schedule, man. It is Monday, July 13th, 2020. Welcome to the greatest year of our lives. Okay, not really. But you can welcome yourself to the Crushing Iron Podcast. That's right. Crushing Iron times two. Crushing Iron Podcast 390.
390.
300, like 400 hours is basically what it probably comes out to of just yapping, which is like what? Maybe 15 or 16 days we've spent doing this podcast. Like if you take them 24 hours, but
wow,
man, that's a lot of hours, something like that.
Don't quote calculation.
Yeah, no, don't quote me on that math, but I think I'm probably not that far off. But hey, we welcome you in. We hope you had an awesome weekend. We hope you got outside. We hope you had some fun. We hope you stayed out of the heat to an extent, even though it feels almost impossible right now, even if you get up at like 5 a.m. But we welcome you. We appreciate you tuning in. We know you have a plethora of options in the triathlon podcast world. And while we do talk about triathlon, we also talk about life. We talk about everything in between, the obstacles, the triumphs. Mike and I's both personal experiences as athletes and coaches. We've gone through over our athletic careers and also coaching myself for the last 10 or 15 years. And then sometimes we even hop into our closed Facebook group, which is Crushing Iron Group. You can hop in there on Facebook, answer one simple question, and we'll let you in. Last Thursday or Friday, for example, we did a little Q&A. We let the members of that group posted questions, and I went through at lightning speed, shorter than usual, but covered them all. And that's last Thursday's podcast. But we like to keep everything open, honest, keeping you happy and healthy is our agenda. But outside of that, we have no sponsors, no ads, even though I think people thought we had like a for real Roka sponsorship a week or two ago when I made that joke, which obviously didn't pan out the way I thought because it was intended to be a joke. That's what we do.
Desist order from.
You did? Oh, that's sweet. And what? You got it in probably, 19 different emails on the same day? And hey, we make
cancel.
Yeah, cancel, unsubscribe. That's what we do, and we hope you take something positive from it. We'll occasionally get into the deepness that is data on swim, bike, and run and triathlon training, and we'll do race recaps, race previews, have on the occasional guest, but for the most part, we just talk about what we feel is going on in our own lives, our athletes' lives, and oftentimes, it's kind of the general feel and the general pulse of the triathlon community. I know that's what you and I are going to talk about today. It has been incredibly nice to have you here in Chattanooga. You moved here about a week ago, and we've been able to even come over to the house. Before we hop on and do this podcast, we get to have a little exchange in terms of what we're going to talk about, and we're both on the same page today. And we hope that you find this positive and hopefully puts you in a good path to finish off this year with a bang.
Yeah, it has been nice. I really enjoy it here, and it has been nice coming over here. We do the podcast in your house in different rooms, but we're getting closer and closer to being actually in front of each other while we do a podcast. And that is coming soon with our.
It already feels awkward. I just want to say that it already feels awkward. I'm not sure our podcast is going to make it if we have to start. Like we've become total millennials when it comes to podcasts. You ask us to like do things in person, and like we'll have the occasional Skype video pop up, and we're like, whoa, cancel call. Let's start over again. Let's take this up. I've actually put duct tape over my video camera on my laptop just to make sure that nothing sneaks in. But no, we do. We have a lot of fun things coming for the podcast in terms of just really upping our game for you, the listener. We invest in some great equipment that hopefully makes your experience that much better. In hopes that it makes it more listenable to our podcast, which I know is a stretch, but we do our best. But yeah, we're probably going to toy and tinker with doing some of these live, or maybe not live, but just video. I don't know what you have in store for that, but it definitely means I need to up my game in terms of my overall presentation and wardrobe. So I'll be investing in some, probably gonna add a fourth or a fifth t-shirt to my rotation, maybe even a second or third pair of shorts, and gonna have to keep my face, a little bit more clean and crisp on the beard line, and continuing to hide my receding hairline. Outside of that, I have no reservations about us doing a live podcast.
Hats, and we're gonna have to take you to Farm and Fleet and get you some Carhartt gear.
Dude, if you ever see me in car right now,
Maybe,
you're gonna know that I'm like way over the edge, man.
maybe we could do the thing in the same room, put like a desk wall up between us just so we have a little separation
That's what we
with a
should do.
little
Kind of,
slider window in case we want to look
yeah.
at each other.
Kind of like it is like at every checkout register now they have like that that clear plexiglass up to
Yeah,
keep from the
we could put a
keep keep a safe distance. We could do our own like 6 foot distance in our office to make sure that and but also obviously make it maybe like one of those see-through mirrors that we could just stare at ourselves and make it that much more uncomfortable and awkward. That way we're not looking at each other. But anyway, we digress. We're happy to be here. We hope you are too. We appreciate you, sticking around for these first 5 minutes. That is our usual. So if you're again your first time listening, like we don't jump right into a bullet point outline of a specific structure for the day. So, if this is your first time listening and you want to listen to more, always feel free to fast forward to the first 5 or 10 minutes of the cast, even though it's a lot of people's favorite as our kind of our chit.
yeah, a lot of people
It
seem to
makes
like it.
yeah, it makes you feel like you're in the same room or, coffee shop or just sitting around having a conversation with the guys or whoever it is. And just so you
I
know,
can hear a new listener going, "Oh, screw this shit. I'm out of
oh,
here, man."
no, I signed up for triathlon only talk. You guys are taking advantage of me. But hey, sit back,
Thanks for
relax.
wasting my time.
Push your laptop or device 6 feet away from you, and we'll have a good social distance conversation. But today, our conversation is around acceptance. And I think it is an important subject to have or a conversation to have. I didn't really highlight it. I discussed it a little bit. I've started to do a weekly check-in email with our athletes and just kind of letting them know what I've thought. Generally, kind of taking the pulse of our own athletes through Training Peaks comments, emails, text messages, and I didn't always do that. I'd do it occasionally, but when we started this whole COVID thing and pandemic and whatever it is, I started doing it back in March and people seem to like it. I can't really tell who's read it or not. A lot of times I can tell that people don't because they ask questions and answer in emails. But other than that, it's been beneficial, I think, in terms of just kind of letting people know how things are going and talking about myself as not just a coach, but as a husband and a father and an athlete, and kind of humanizing who we are. Mike and I are not celebrities. We are people like you. We do the exact same things. We have terrible sleep days. We stay up too late. We have good days. We have bad days. We have great workouts. We have bad workouts. We are on a constant search for trying to figure things out and show ourselves more grace while obviously pushing the boundaries of performing better and challenging ourselves. And we're going through it, and I think that's an important, thing to highlight it. And today, one of the things I kind of highlighted in that email was that if you're unmotivated right now, or you are struggling right now, or you're finding it hard to get up and get out in the 95-degree heat for your 5-hour ride for a race that's probably going to get canceled, you are not alone. Not only are you not alone, but that kind of thought, in my opinion, is expected. And I just think it's an important conversation to have in you knowing as a listener, if that's the way that you're feeling or you fought back those feelings before, that it's totally okay. And that it doesn't mean you're an uncommitted, unmotivated athlete, that you will never, pursue, your dreams of finishing a 70.3 or doing your first marathon or completing in your first Ironman. It doesn't mean you're not worthy. It doesn't mean you're not capable. It doesn't mean that, you're not mentally strong enough. And Joe and Bobby Sue are out there and they never miss a workout. And, and then peel back the layers and look at their lives and they might be miserable. And so there's just a lot to balance right now as people, and I think we always talk through our podcast and give examples as triathletes, but triathletes are something that we just call ourselves. We are human. We have lives to live. And one of like the more common threads and comments this morning I was doing in Training Peaks was that right now, in my opinion, and this may be contradictory to what many people may think, is that I said a lot of times, like right now, your number one goal right now should be to limit and mitigate life stress and life obstacles. Do that first, because until you can do that, or until you get to a comfortable place with that, you're not going to be able to have the fitness breakthroughs or fitness gains that you're trying desperately so hard to get right now, fighting through things or making yourself go run in 105-degree heat when you're already exhausted, because if you don't go run, then you're a failure and you're not motivated, you're never going to do this, and you're a quitter. And Sue down the street, she got up this morning and did her 30-minute run. She's already been Orange Theory 8 times a day, and she's out walking her dog, and you look back and you're like, oh, well, Bobby Sue, Bobby Sue is single. She has a 9-to-5 job that she works works from home. She has no kids and responsibilities. She has a cat who takes care of herself and only needs to be fed like 4 times a year. And and you're sitting there thinking, well, I've got 4 kids and I'm trying to homeschool them and do a job, and my husband's gone on travel. It's totally different. So stop comparing yourself. Start showing yourself some grace and understand that feelings and thoughts pass. They aren't our identity. They aren't who we are. It might be what we are feeling at the moment, but it is not who you are as a person. It is not an indictment of your ability to compete or complete something that you really want to do. It just means that life is throwing you curveballs. You might be missing right now, but sometimes, it's best to just not swing and just step back, and let the pitches keep coming instead of swinging and missing and getting frustrated, and just wait for the perfect pitch and then go after it.
Mm. I got to say, you make a great point there. The idea of being in a certain place mentally can change so often. And I did just move here from Nashville, and I was living in a ranch apartment or ranch home, and now I'm in an apartment with living on the second floor. So like just stairs right now is kind of a unique thing for me. I'm not used to really dealing with stairs and stuff, and I've had this heel issue for a long time, as I've discussed ad nauseum. And I don't mean to labor on it, but it is so easy to get into this idea of, man, I just, you wake up, you're like, I can't do it, whatever. And I think it kind of goes back again to what we were saying a few podcasts ago about how I really miss uh, the race environment and things like that. I mean, just to be able to be around that once in a while is so huge. I mean, just to be able to be here and be around you more often and be around some of our other athletes that live here, and those kind of things really give you good energy. And we tend to isolate as triathletes anyway. And now it's like this bubble that's really difficult to navigate sometimes. And I've been, struggling, as you know. I mean, thankfully, I hadn't signed up for any races, but I've been wanting to, and I keep going, man. I think a few weeks ago, I was talking to you about, I really was thinking about doing Louisville, and then, like 2 weeks later, they just pulled it right off the table, and now it's kind of like, wow, man. If you got a little injury and your motivation is kind of jacked, it's like, I like what you say is, it's just to mitigate bad energy in your life and try to just stay on track. I mean, it's such a weird thing to do, right? I mean, if to just stay on track, to just live day to day, to just be in the moment, whatever it is. It's easy to say that kind of stuff, but the reality is, man, it's nice to have carrots sitting out there and stuff that that kind of like boils your blood a little bit and gets you excited, right?
There's so many things that I think, because for the most part, like most of us, if not all of us, have never gone through a period like we have the last 3 to 4 months. With it, not just as triathletes and having races canceled and injuries or whatever, setbacks, whatever it is, but also like just as living on this planet. And so I think we're daily trying to troubleshoot. Okay, what's it going to take for me to get through today? What's it going to take for me to get out the door? What's it going to take me to get healthy? What's it going to take me to stay motivated? What's it going to take me for me to, hop on and do a race this year? And then if I am going to do a race and I am committed to that, what's it going to take for me to believe it's going to happen and stay focused for the duration? Instead of having the efforts, which is what a lot of athletes have right now. They're like, they see one race fall and 2 races fall, 3 races, 4, and like it was a really really hard period the last 2 weeks, and we discussed this, and I mentioned in the email, was that I think it's also a perfect storm. Okay, it's like we're more than halfway through the year. A lot of athletes have been working their butt off since November, December, January to make this a great year. And you combine that with, I mean, and this is normal. I mean, like one of the first years you and I worked together, the first year, I gave you guys your hardest week, which was what? Do you remember?
Uh,
I
no.
told you. Yeah. See, well, that's a way to ruin the podcast. It was you guys have been training really really hard since January. You guys have been super consistent. You guys have worked real hard, and I said, all right, I'm gonna give you guys the hardest week of your year, and I
Oh
uploaded
yeah,
you
yeah,
some
yeah, yeah.
weeks.
At least.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And it was choice week. it was nothing. I gave you guys nothing for a week,
Right in the
just a
middle,
week.
right when we.
Yeah, right in the middle, right when you're like, I'm chomping at the bit, I'm ready to go. And the reason I did it was because the year had already been so long, and you had gone through so many, you'd been so consistent while there hadn't been any cancellations, but it just been going really, really well. And so I knew that you needed a period to kind of decompress, the emotional, mental, and physical focus that is this huge endeavor you're taking on. And so you have athletes that are doing that and maybe haven't had that week because they were in the middle of these big phases of the races that we thought and anticipated or assumed were going to happen in June, July, August, whatever. And now they're gone. And then now they're like, but I still got this race. I don't know if it's going to happen because Louisville got canceled and like Plaza got canceled or moved and this happened. And so you kind of like move things back. Like, what's probably not going to happen because look at things right now. And it's also like 95 degrees pretty much every day, at most places, or even if it's not 95, it's hot relative to where you live. So like people say, it's 105 degrees, it's unbearable. And then you have people about, California who are like, oh my God, it's 85 in San Diego with partly cloudy, I'm frying. So it's all different based on where you live, but it's hot and it takes more out of you. It's harder to recover. And so you combine all that together with all the uncertainty and you go and you take that, you flip that switch to the race day finish line, or you pop in like a crushing iron YouTube video of the Ironman Wisconsin or Chattanooga or whatever, and you're like, this is what's going to get me through this trainer. I'm going to envision myself finishing this race and doing this, and I'm going to be running to the red carpet, I'm going to be high five with my family, I'm going to pick my kid up over the rail, and I'm not going to care about DNF, and I'm going to just celebrate, and the crowd is cheering, and here's my life, and I am the greatest. And then you're like, but it's probably not going to happen,
Yeah,
or
probably
it
not
might,
gonna.
or it might not happen, or that's kind of taking the wind out of my sails. And so it makes things hard, to go that extra step. And I don't know what boxer said it, but it's like, everyone has a plan until they get hit in the mouth. And it seems like this whole year, everybody, because triathletes love to have a plan. We make this plan, we put it out there, we got this outline, this is the year, this is what we're going to do. Peaks, valleys, periodization, recovery, vacations, whatever it is, even like, random things like vacation, school starting back, it's all up in the air. And you've been taking body shot after body shot after body shot after body shot. And at some point, you're just going to throw in the towel. Not because you've got like the final uppercut, which for a lot of people, it's like their final race. You're like, I've watched it happen. You get your early season sprint or half marathon, postponed till August, September, and then it gets moved back, and then, it keeps going, and then you're like, but I got it. And then like you're the last race of your year. Like if you're an athlete who's planned like your biggest A race in June, July, August, or even maybe early September, and it's already been canceled, then you're like, well, what am I doing right now? Like it's super hot. Why am I even like exercise? I should be sitting by the pool, drinking daiquiris, eating cheese dip. Like that's what you should do during the summertime. And it's hard because you get that one final uppercut that is that final race, but some people are still taking body shots. But what you're seeing is you're seeing other people take those uppercuts, and what are they doing? They're either continuing to move on, they continue to work out, or they're taking time off. And the answer is that it's all specific to you. What your needs are in terms of what's best for your life and your mental emotional health as it comes to triathlon and racing and being a just an overall human is going to be significantly different from people. I've got athletes whose whole training world has been opened up to a whole different level during this pandemic because they aren't traveling anymore, they're at home more often, they can work from home, their job and their life is super flexible. It's actually increased their ability to train more, and they have been able to do more things and be at home or spend more time with their family. So they're actually training at levels they never have before, which to them is a great thing. And then you also have athletes who I've got one athlete who's like always super consistent and literally never misses things. In the last few weeks, like the business he's in has seen like insane jumps in sales. So he's like working more than he's ever worked before, and he's had to like scale things back. Think of people who have lost jobs, get people that are moving, people that are like every other athlete I see now is like everybody's getting a dog, like everybody's doing something, people are getting pregnant, like everything's happening very rapidly for a lot of people. You're having quarantine babies and quarantine dogs, and you're moving to different states, and like just there's a lot of moving parts. And so to judge your life and your motivation level and where you feel like you are, or more importantly, what you believe you truly need versus what you think optically looks good, can be two different things. Because saying that I need a choice week or I needed 2 weeks of downtime to just recoup and get my motivation back, when you say it, it sounds awful. because like, oh, I should be motivated. I should be, I should be sticking to things. I should be doing it. But the truth is that like, if you need it, then you take it. And if you don't take it, and you're one of those people that's just smiling, not smiling, but kind of gritting their teeth to smile along the way, and faking their way through training to make it, seem like they still got it together and they're still motivated, then after a few weeks, they're going to have an epic crash and burn. Like they're going to be so toast, so over it because they've stretched themselves too thin. You can't do that right now. You've got to stay fresh. You've got to stay really, really on top of your ability to stay present and understand what you really need physically, emotionally, and mentally.
Mm. There's a thing going on, and the way you design plans, I love it. It's because there's sort of this when you talk about kind of giving the same workouts often, and I know a lot of athletes that I'm working with are really seeing those gains. I mean, it's something you can put a finger on. It's more tangible that way, I think, because if I think a lot of triathletes are probably similar to me in the sense that they meander a bit, and they kind of just
Hmm.
dabble in different things. And I know that's one of the hardest things for me is because it's really difficult to recognize progress if you're not doing similar things on occasion, or you don't have a pattern behind your workout, your training schedule. So it's difficult, and I had, like, for example, I hadn't run probably in 2 months, and yesterday I was my day. I'm coming back, right? So I actually felt really good. I'm like, I'm gonna go out for a little walk run, and I walked outside, and it was like the wind was galing and it was pouring rain. And I walked out, I'm standing on the sidewalk, and I go, I'm going back in. And then I said, no, no, you're not. No, you're not. So there's like, the trees are blowing, limbs are flying everywhere, and I just started doing my walk run, and I felt surprisingly good. But again, it's sort of like I have nothing really to gauge that on because obviously I've been injured. But and then it felt pretty awesome, and I got done. I'm like, man, all right, I'm coming back. And I woke up today, and my heel was just scathing me, man. And but I got some plans in mind. But the point is I guess my whole thing really just feels haphazard right now. So that's actually what I was thinking yesterday is I just have to get back on some kind of regiment that just gives me those little victories along the way. Because when you don't have anything really to hang, to be able to justify or to kind of clarify how you're doing, it's really difficult. And, it's sort of like just kind of going through the day with like looking at oh, there's something I should do, and then you walk around the house and you're like, oh man, I forgot about that, I'll do that now. And nothing ever really seems to get done, unless you've got sort of a method behind the madness. And that's why I think it's kind of interesting that while there are no races going on, in some ways coaching is almost more important right now, and the stuff that you're
Well,
like watching what you lay out and things like that, and what I see from people and feedback.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's definitely that, but it's also, I mean, like as you know, like coaching is 90% psychology, 10% physiology. You're more of a social worker. You're more of a social worker than you are, anything else. And I think, like I said, like right now is it's such a fragile time. That I think to another extent, people are reevaluating and kind of breaking down their previous notions of what their current perspective and objective should be when it comes to racing. I have athletes that, listen, Ironman Wisconsin has not been canceled. It is still on the books. I took the liberty of telling the athletes that I have that are training for Ironman Wisconsin that based on what I know and who I've talked to, there is absolutely no way that it's going to happen. And so instead of just continuing to move them in that direction, for the most of them, I was going to scale things back. Just and that's probably counterintuitive to what a lot of people might think, but I feel like it was in their best interest to do that, to show them that I mean, because I'd rather make that decision than them, because I know a lot of people take weight in that and like in scaling things down, and it's shown as a sign of weakness. And much like from an emotional mental standpoint, people see vulnerability as a weakness, but in my opinion, and I know you agree, it's like vulnerability is a sign of strength, and courage, and it shows people that you're willing to to talk about anything and be open with anything. And if you do that, then you're going to be successful. Hiding things and powering through and grind away and beat yesterday and I'm totally fine. Like those might look well, but they don't feel well. And so to challenge yourself in the way that you think emotionally and mentally, and it's hard, because you have to challenge yourselves and it's uncomfortable. I do it all the time, sometimes probably to an unhealthy degree, in terms of like questioning why I'm thinking things, or is this right, or is this really your objective and your perspective on things? Is this the right answer, or is it your ego talking, or is it actually what you really think is right and it is right, but you're questioning it so much because your ego plays a part that you're not going to do it? Like there's so many circles we can run, around the same conversations and the same decision making. But going back to what you're saying about just hopping on with some structure, like that's the answer for most people. Like a structure can look like anything, and you can have these visions, and what I see so often in athletes that just kind of wait and wait and wait is they get caught up in the obsession with the creativity of what it's going to look like and what it's going to look like and what it's going to look like and what do I need it to look like and what do I need to feel, and I need all these things in the right order. I need to be, have my Mondays through Fridays look like this before I start moving, and or I'm not going to sign up for the gym until I've lost 10 pounds and I can go to the gym and do these things, or I'm not going to start training for this Olympic or 70.3 or full until I can do this. And you delay things through because you feel like you're completing something by using energy to create. But the best medicine, you say all the time, is like movement is medicine, is getting out and doing something. And you can still be creative along the way. You can still get out there and go out for a 35-minute run, the next day do a ride, the next day do a swim, which is one of the things that I mentioned on a podcast probably a year ago. Was like, to me, that's like the greatest way to start off somebody is, if you're struggling with getting motivated, is do one sport a day in order until things start to click. Do a run day, do a bike day, do a swim day, and then repeat, or take an off day if you feel like you need it. But just do something, because that's how you're really going to figure out how you're feeling, what you're liking, what you're not liking, what's fitting in your life in an appropriate way. What's direction are you heading? How are you seeing fitness gains? How are you adapting to the heat? How is it handling with your life stress? You can't figure that out until you actually put pen to paper and you put foot to pavement. And that's what so many people get caught up in, is they exhaust their time by putting pen to paper and not actually putting anything whatsoever into action. And that they just get caught up in that. Oh, I just need to wait. I just need to wait. Everything's gonna be perfect, and it's never gonna be. But you can figure things out along the way. You can construct things. You can change things. You can get the foundation built and be like, you know what? I'm gonna extend the foundation, and then I'm gonna start the framing. Or we can start the framing and think, you know what? I originally thought that it looked this way, but I feel like I need to actually do something different. Or, this house was gonna be 2 stories. Now it's gonna be 3. Like we from the original design of our C26 hub, like in the first 6 months, it changed drastically to what we thought it was going to be. But the most important thing was that they just put footers in. They just got the foundation for it. Like, is you can make these changes, and now that we walk in there like we did this weekend, and we're like, man, this is incredible. But you can't get there if you're just paralyzed to the point of not starting, or not being a part of something, or not having some type of structure. And choice days and downtime are great and they're needed, but not to the point to where you become so accustomed to it that that's now your comfort zone.
Well, what you said there, the run one day, bike one day, swim, that's kind of really hitting home with me right now. It's almost like it's the 3-sport like comeback dilemma.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, where do you start? With me, I haven't been running for so long that I just have this natural inclination to want to get out there and get that run back, right? Like as fast as I can, like get it up to speed. And I mean, what even is that? I'm not going to start at the gym until I get to this shape. I mean, it's kind of a weird thing to think about, I know you want to, yeah, I don't want to go to the gym until I'm actually looking good and ready to go, but I mean, what is the step to do that, And I remember you telling me that once, just swim, bike, run, swim, just repeat and get that going. And it's sort of like kind of, just find a spot where you're moving a lot and you're starting to be familiar with it again, because a lot of times that really is a lot of it. It's sort of like you haven't done things in so long, or you don't feel accomplished in something, and it's always hard. And that's why I'll always remember this, man. When I was training for Louisville one time, and I didn't feel like my swim was in gear, but it wasn't quite where it needed to be. I swam for like every day for like 3 weeks, and that was
short, like 2Ks
short,
and 15,
and under,
yep.
short. and nothing super
Wait,
hard. But I'll
wait, you
tell you.
swam under? I'm shocked.
Oh, sometimes I was going at. I mean, this was the beauty of it. I was working in a corporate job then, and I would go over there for lunch and just pop in for like 30 minutes, 40 minutes, or whatever, and I would just swim. And by the end of that cycle, I felt like I was swimming, like it wasn't a deal, you know. It was like you show up and you jump in the water without thinking about how cold it is or whatever it is, and I think it's just a matter about rebuilding patterns and comfortability with what you're doing, and then it just starts flowing. But until then, to have these goals set so high that you can't hit things certain times, and you're like you have to be back to 3,000 meters in the pool like within 2 weeks. I mean, it's amazing how that stuff just kind of comes around. That's why I felt it yesterday about my run, actually, because I hadn't run in so long, and I felt really good on the run. Like I felt like my breathing was under control, and I felt like I was going at, I don't know what my pace was because I wasn't running with a watch, but it felt great. And to be able to pick that, I mean, what talk about that for a minute? Those, like, the years of builds, and then all of a sudden you can just go out and I felt like I could have kept going for a long time yesterday, and I hadn't run in so long.
Man, it's crazy that you bring that up. And as per usual, we have like had like the same internal conversation the last 24 hours. But I had this yesterday on Sam and I went for a trail run, and he and I were chatting about like this being a rough time of year for people who have races, that are getting canceled, especially if they're early in their athlete life cycle, right? And I think what people forget is that it all adds up. Like I had an example, like an example of an athlete that did a sprint race. This is the first race she's done, or second one in the past 9 months. That's it. If since we started working together, and so
Mm.
you take this amount of time, and you're like, I wonder if it's working. I wonder if it's working. I wonder if it's working because we don't really show it because of the way that we train. We're not looking to go out and blow a gasket on a Tuesday or a Thursday. We wanted to show up in a short race, and she went out and absolutely dusted it. I think she was like fifth overall, and improved insanely by, um, the first, but compared to her one last year. And it's this, like, I think that's the biggest thing is that people, and this even goes for me because I was using this conversation as well with Sam, and I was like, I hopped on the bike, um, maybe 3 weeks ago, just for kicks on the testing out one of the new smart bikes we're gonna have at the hub. And I was like, you know what, because this is what you should do is you hop on and just kind of see what kind of bike fitness you have, see how your trail running is transferred over, and kind of see what kind of 20-minute power you can churn out the day before your 18-mile trail race. And so I hopped on and it smashed one out, and I was pleasantly surprised. I was like, I haven't lost that much. And the thing is it's not so much that you haven't lost much, it's that you've been doing this for so long. Because like I've been doing this in to some extent, endurance sports for 15 years, which is makes me feel super old now. But I've been doing it for that long. It just doesn't go away. And so when you think about taking time off, while I encourage you to take time off if you mentally and emotionally feel like you need it, when you look at where you are in the athlete life cycle, you don't want to just put that on pause because you're not going to get a better result. You're just going to get the same result next year. Or what you could do is take the result you would have gotten this year, keep working, and get an even better result next year. That's how I use the analogy, or like I always do in their email this morning, and said, the only difference is now is you're not going to make, you're still doing your deposits in your fitness bank. You're just not going to make your withdrawal tomorrow, or maybe even this year, but you could make a massive withdrawal next year. And the difference between people who are going to stay consistent, to a degree, it's scaling things back again is appropriate and okay, and a lot of times needed to see performance gains, and to keep you on a trajectory that's healthy and positive. But you can look at it two ways. Like if you look at this year, I was going to withdraw all my fitness money and use it for this one big withdrawal on Ironman Wisconsin. And I don't think it's going to happen. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to stop going to the bank. And then I'm just start. Then I'll probably start back, making trips to the bank and making my fitness deposits probably next year, maybe next February. And what's going to happen is your body bank is going to start taking out those random admin fees. What you see in your bank, and you're like, what's this
Yeah.
$35 fee for? You're like, you're just holding my digital money. Like it can't cost that much. And then of course the next 5 or 6 months you're going to start losing. the fitness you put in, and they're gonna have to start back over and try to recoup some of that. And then when the Ironman Wisconsin does happen next year, then you're gonna get back and be like, all right, I finally got it, and you're gonna have the same withdrawal that you would have had this year. You're not gonna have used this time to continue to make trips to the bank, to continue to make those deposits. It doesn't have to be a couple grand; it can be a couple dollars. But as long as you're making it a net positive, you're going to see huge, huge gains down the road. And that's something that I think people, are just don't understand to the degree that how much fitness overlaps, and how doing this for, yeah, I was reading an interesting quote, and while this might be, way over people's like ability to soak in, is that it was something like the law of sevens. 7 years to get ready, 7 years to train seriously, and then 7 years at your peak. That's how a lot of high performance coaches who are dealing with athletes at the highest level see things. They see it that way. And we say it too on a more micro level of saying, we train so we can train the way that we need to train to get ready to race. And that's how that's how you look at it in more of a micro or macro version of like a year versus, you train, you put really, really great weeks together that make really great months that make incredible years, or you could use the law of sevens. And so that's how you need to think about it. It's just constant forward motion, or inherently that 2 weeks back might actually mean 20 weeks forward, if that makes sense. Because you see athletes who are in this really great, like I have an athlete who I've been working with for going on 4 years now. He was going to do Muncie. He's in a great spot. He's one of the most consistent athletes that I've ever worked with. His name's Stuart Rogers. He will tell you he is my favorite athlete, but it's actually his wife, Megan. She's my favorite athlete. He was like, hey, I need 2 weeks to kind of just regroup, hang out, do some things, whatever. I'm like, sure, take it. Because I have no worry that he's going to hop back on the train. But when you see and what you feel in those conversations is this 2 week break, you might see it as a setback, or I'm going to have to catch up. But what I see as a coach, knowing where he's coming from, is this might be fast forwarding us 20 weeks. Because if you kept going down a path and you were beating yourself up mentally, emotionally, physically, and you weren't really in it, then what are you going to need? A month off, or 6 weeks off, or a lot of time off, or you're going to become solely disengaged with what you're trying to accomplish, that it's going to extend even longer. And so you have to be willing to change things up and troubleshoot, but that's the path forward. And I was having a conversation with an athlete earlier about, coaching and what it really means, with some athletes, in that a lot of high level performing athletes, they don't need your help to get from A to Z really quickly. What they need you to do is make sure you don't F it up. And just sit there and remove landmines that might be at G or might be at N, to make sure they get there happy, healthy, and as quick as possible. And that's what a lot of coaches do. It's more about getting you out of your own way than it is pushing you forward, to make sure you're doing it correctly. And so I think when it comes to, looking at the rest of your year and how can you plan things, and this is something I'll go over in our Zoom call on Wednesday, is like, there's nothing wrong with looking at 21. There's just not. Is training going to look like this huge, vastly different? Not for a lot of people, because I think, again, like when you're thinking about, base training, I have to have my volume low. Like, you also need to understand that, when it comes to like next November, December, January, when you're stuck back inside again, you gonna be doing 3-hour rides? Nope. Do it while you can. Do it while you can get outside. And if you're looking at how you're building a cake, and building that huge foundation and then putting the icing on top, don't look at it like, I'm just going to stop here at this first layer and I'll get back to second layer next year. Keep building that cake. Keep doing what is required to be successful, and build that engine and build that base that doesn't go away, and reframe that from, I don't want to waste this time. No time is wasted. Nothing is wasted.
So a lot of people, it's just so interesting to me to think about that concept of taking time off and that speeding you forward, because I mean, I think there's so much to be said for consistency, right? We've hammered that into the ground, and there's no question about that. Consistent, workouts, and just stay on it. But I think that this time is so valuable for being consistent, but like mixing it up. Like, if you're going to the way to get better, and because if you don't have to, like I've said, if I hadn't run in like 2 or 3 months and I go out and I feel like I'm like kind of still in that run shape, or you're on your bike and you're still feeling good about it after a long layoff, something's in there, right? So like we don't have to be afraid of losing it because we've learned it and we've been through it and our body already kind of knows it, right? So there's this psychology about just having it innately. And now's the time for me. And I always like to put in drumming analogies because, like, I can work on that same beat over and over and over and get that thing down solid. But at some point, I got to branch out and do something that makes me feel confused or confuses my body and works on different things. And that's why, consistency is one thing. But if you're going out and run the same route every day, every back and forth, I don't think that necessarily is the way that you should be improving right now. There's got to be some mixing it up, and I know you mix that in there all the time. It's just like try different routes and expose yourself to different things, because in the end, now is when you're going to learn those things, and they're going to come back to you next year. You know what I mean? Instead of just rolling through the same type of thing all the time and expecting it to get better, because there's a lot of people. I don't feel like I'm not getting faster or whatever. It's like, well, you're kind of in the same groove. You got to break out of that groove sometimes.
It's one of those things where we as athletes love to be comfortable and fear being challenged, even though we got into the sport to be challenged. And we've brought this up before on many a podcast in terms of like triathletes love comfort. They love things exactly how they should be all the time. And if there is like one small hiccup, then it's total devastation for the training session. And I agree that like in terms of measuring things, it's easier to measure yourself as an athlete, yourself as a coach, the same route, the same distance every single time. Like it's very easy to measure. If in terms of like challenging yourself, it's like right now is a great thing, because what you're doing is you're not impeding the progress of fitness, because fitness develops over time, and fitness overall disciplines intersects and meshes. Like if you take your both hands and you make them like the number five, and put them together like they connect like a chain, is like that's how fitness is. There's overlap. It's not perfect, but there's overlap. And challenging yourself to a different endeavor, or challenging yourself on a different adventure, and looking things like like I want to do this, or I want to take on this challenge or opportunity, like as long as you're continuing to move, yes, the physical gains will continue to appear. The physical gains will continue to happen, and they'll manifest in positive ways. But don't underestimate the mental and emotional benefit that you gain from moving and being active and pursuing a goal and being part of a process. Like, yes, is there, we talked about like the triathlon depression before, but we're not triathletes, we're people. Triathlon is our hobby. And right now, like anxiety and depression is at an all-time high. And I have conversations like this with so many athletes about, that triathlon training has all but, and I'm not trying to make some like blanket statement here, but for a lot of them, they will tell you training for a triathlon has all but basically cured their current level of depression and anxiety to an extent. That they no longer feel that they're no longer, they just no longer feel it. And I can tell you from my own experience, like while I feel like I'm in a different place in my life now compared to where I was 10 years ago. But when I got into the sport, this from knowing me back before I got sober 7 years ago, like triathlon and fitness probably saved my life. In
Mm.
terms of, I used it as my other drug. I was just drinking and it was triathlon. Like it wasn't drinking and then drugs. And if it had been that, I'd probably be dead. And so it saved me. And so there are these huge benefits that we have, and not just the benefits that you get from, oh well, you get outside and you get a little bit extra vitamin D, and you have this euphoric feeling of endorphin rush when you do exercise, and it makes you feel good, and it's proven to decrease depression and boost mental performance, whatever it is. Like you can read those all you want to, but there's also this, I'm sure there's been scientific study on it. There's also this it's not companionship, but there's this, yeah, it's like a camaraderie you feel with a specific process, that you're training for this race, and you're in like such a great groove that no matter what, you're in a good spot. Like you have a healthy relationship with this process, and it is kind of a camaraderie. Like you're doing everything for a specific reason and a sole purpose. And so right now, if you're having trouble with that because you don't have that, you don't have a process because the end result of the process has been taken away and removed, and now you think the process is too long. Like create one, establish one, make it something that you may have thought like last year was, just something minimal that doesn't seem like a lot. And right now, even the smallest thing that can elongate your ability to be in a process that is going to be positive, is going to reap you healthy benefits emotionally, mentally, and physically is a great thing. It could be trying to drop your 1 mile run time. It could be trying to swim your fastest 100 in the pool. It could be trying to increase your, cycling cadence. Whatever it is, like be part of a process, and that's something that I'm having to rework even myself as a coach, because it's usually race 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 race. Like we already know what we're training for, even after as soon as the first race is over, or the one race over, we already know what we're training for next. Like the day you wake up, what we're doing, what we're planning. Now you're just constantly moving things around. It's like, you're standing at one of those, whack-a-mole things at the arcade, and like one race pops up, slam it, and like it's all over the place. And you have to be flexible. And for a lot of athletes, like they need to see the bigger picture. And so I've actually thought about, as I start to create the next few weeks plans for athletes, is like doing it 3-4 weeks out at a time, so they can see like maybe in the bigger picture, maybe in results that might be here and there, and like something to shoot for and something to really gravitate towards. And that's just, it's part of being flexible. It's also part of continuing to nurture that part of you that needs the emotional and mental stimulus that is training, and understanding that when we retire from the sport and we give up this hobby and we move on, that like that's all we're going to remember anyway. It is what it made us, and the people that we met and what we became. And we're doing our own kind of, making our own effort in that as well, and like creating our own little tri series we're going to have at the hub and virtually, for our athletes to come to Chattanooga and do races, that are in the endless pool and on bikes and on courses. Like they can do that, or they can race virtually. Like we're doing our best to solve some problems in that. And I think the response has been outstanding, but not everyone can do that. So you have to be creative for yourself and figure out, hey, this is a challenge I'd like to take on. And even if it's not a challenge, this is a process that I can wrap my brain around, that I feel like I can be a part of. And like you were going back to saying, just being in structure is the biggest thing, because then you can kind of adapt and refigure what that structure looks like. Once you get into a process, then the process can expand. Then you can find different things that you want to participate in. Then you can maybe redefine the process. Oh, well, now I'm in a process, I can see myself being part of a bigger process that's now 6, 8, 12, 18 months down the road. I get it. I feel it. I'm in. Let's keep moving. But you can't do that if you don't start one.
Mm-hmm. And as you said, the sport can become that sort of drug or thing too. It's like it saved you, it saved a lot of people, it's done well for me. And I think the key is to not make it the rigid drug, the answer to everything, in the sense of, like, I was just thinking about, like, how are you? Are you the type of person, if we're just running down a greenway and then the lead person decides to take a right and go up a trail and go running through the trails, is that something that, like, disturbs you? Or, like, I'm not asking you personally, but I'm just asking people, are you the person that's going to just go for it and just wing it through there? Or are you going to be like, that's going to screw up my workout, blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? Like, it's the rigidity of being tied to everything. And especially now, because I think it's important really just to be, finding that way, or finding a goal to sort of be free with it, have
Hmm.
it so it doesn't own you. Like, can you mix it up? Are you okay with that? Or is it just like, if you get let off that bike path, are you going to be your mind is just going to be completely twisted because you're thinking of training peaks and whatever? Or are you going to go up that hill and make it, work on being better and stronger and just letting go? Because, man, what a time to just let go and try things and experiment with new things and build in different ways. You were talking the other day about, we were talking about foot issues, and you said that when you started running on trails, that helped strengthen your feet, just little things like that, because it works all the muscles more than just running straight ahead on a concrete path. So I think that there's opportunities for that, and obviously you don't have to most of us aren't worrying about races right now, but that's the time to do it, right? Like get out there and just like take a detour.
And figure it out, or at least be a part of a process that's called trying to figure it out.
Hmm.
It's like, and again, like going back to just, sitting on your hands and not doing nothing and just waiting to plan and planning and planning and planning. It's like, the person, who spends 5 hours making their to-do list and then gets one thing done. Get to work. It's like, so I spent, so much, I guess my to-do list, well, it took you 3 hours to do it. You could have already completed half the list, and just get moving, get doing something. You're telling like, I guess to kind of bring it around to more lighthearted thing, you're talking about the person going off the trail and following the person, kind of doing your own thing and staying focused. When I was down in Florida on vacation last week, there's this run path that goes around the community that we stayed in, and there's this guy who was perfectly paced to where he like came out of this like hotel and started to run ahead of me, and I was ending my run with like 6 30 45 second pickups, and he was just far enough ahead of me. By the time I did my like 30 45 second pickup, I ended up exactly parallel to his shoulders. And my thought, and we've all been there. It's like, you're running, like you're in that like really weird zone. So like, I was like, what do I do? Do I just bust it past him and then have to stop and then be like, I'm that guy who like, we've all been like on, cycling or at a race where some, he's usually a dude, in their 40s and 50s. You're like, sir, just passed you on the hills, and you pass him on the downhills. You're like, dude, can we just please quit bunny hopping all day long? So you don't want to be that guy. So I was like, what do I do here? But I did it. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna restrain. And let's be honest, I'm never going to see this guy ever again in my entire life. So I went up to the shoulder, then I pulled back, and then he kept running. And then my next interval, I ended up doing the exact same thing again. At that point, I just looked over and was like, "Hey, man, I'm done," and then turned back around and ran. It's like we all have those moments of like, do I keep going? Like, what's gonna be awkward? And do I just keep moving, do my own thing, and maybe I'll just keep running like a minute or two ahead of him? And while like that's a very like dramatic example of like doing your own thing, and that if I had extended it a minute, it would have meant nothing, in terms of like the ability of me to execute my workout perfectly. I wouldn't have seen like some overtraining effect or some huge stimulus based on my extra, 15 or 20 seconds of intervals. But, we all have those, like we see online, or we have questions, or we doubt, or we tend to not go a direction because other people are, and it's complicated. Like, and, I get that most people probably look at to this podcast for specific answers on on things. I mean, we see as much in our iTunes reviews sometimes, but this is you. This is your life. It's yours. No one else has your same life. No one. No one is going through the exact same things that you are. No one has had the exact life experiences that you have had. They're all specific and they're all special to you. To think that you can mirror that and match that to someone else's current life and past experiences and future goals is disrespectful to yourself. And so like when you're looking at your to make your plan for the week, or you're looking at making your plan for the next few months, and you're trying to decide on, how do I feel about racing and how do I feel about this, is first and foremost, put yourself first. Not your triathlon version, but yourself, the person who is just, who can be sometimes selfish and protecting itself, doing what you want. Like, do you, like be grace, show yourself grace. Show yourself forgiveness. Be a person who is supportive of yourself. Like, we are way too hard on ourselves, and life is hard enough already to be our own worst enemy and our own worst critic. Is support yourself and make the decisions that are going to make you a better person, because that's going to make you a better athlete, because it's going to make you more available. It's going to create less stress. It's going to remove more obstacles and allow you to really truly perform at your best. And you can't do that while obsessing about multiple things at one time. You have to chip away. You have to be part of a process about ridding your life of as much stress and obstacles as possible, getting as much sleep as you can, treating your body the way it should be treated, and then applying it to what can I add from a training standpoint, increasing fitness. Do those things for yourself, and try to come out of this a much happy, healthier version of where you are when you started.
Mm. Yeah, I like that, man. I mean, you're right. We don't. It is complicated, and that's why I love being able to talk about it like this and just go through. And this is kind of what our lives are together, actually. And in there are some nuggets, and hopefully some things click. It's not always bullet pointed out, but I'm sure that there's things in here that are going to help me today, and I'm sure that you're probably thinking the same thing. And that's, just having these conversations. I mean, to have somebody to have these conversations with is huge too, like
Mm-hmm.
find somebody in your circle to be able to just kind of get into triathlon and talk about it and talk about how it affects life and things like that. And that's kind of invaluable, really. So
It's always
I guess
good
we're
to talk
moving
it out,
on.
man. As long as we're not staring at each other on video, it's always good to talk it out, man.
No kidding.
But no,
What are
in
you
all
up to
seriousness,
today, man?
dude, I got another good 3 hours at least of Training Peak deep dive from over the weekend. I'm gonna try and head over to the hub and check out the almost finished product that is our endless pool, and then I'm gonna hit the real pool today. I'm gonna go back and get back in my usual groove. I'm gonna hit the pool. I got a nice little swim set I'm gonna do today, and that's it. That's what I got planned. I know, super exciting. Don't wish too hard
Wow,
in my life, but that's it.
man.
I know, man.
Yeah,
I'm on it
it's
today.
pretty
Mondays.
pretty awesome. I'm contemplating. I stopped the Y back in the day when because I was going to move and then you couldn't go anyway, so I just stopped
Mm-hmm.
my membership. So I may have to go over there and do it, or
Rekindle
do I
it,
just
baby.
wait for the pool? That endless pool we got going there is sweet,
You're
man.
waiting. We can't be waiting, man.
Can't be. You're right. I'm putting up.
You're putting it off,
All
dude.
right.
She's like perfect
All right.
example.
I'm
Look
gonna
out. She's gonna
drive by
wait
there
to
on
do
the
the
way
pool.
home and just
So
re-sign up.
do it, man. Pull the plug.
Okay.
That is
Let's
it.
wrap it up.
Wrap it up. We appreciate, as usual, for you listening. As always, we love our listeners and appreciate your time. If you want and feel compelled to, give us a review on iTunes. Show us your support. We love it and helps people find our community and be a part of it, which is what we're in. So that obviously doesn't help us boost our sponsor sales, or especially with Roca. If you haven't been or haven't been recently, head on back to our website, c26triathlon.com. It is our one-stop shop for all things coaching, camps, community, and our online hub that is going to be much more vast after we move into the hub and create more videos. But it's already extensive, and we've already had a lot of good feedback of all the things that are in there. So check that out and be a part of our community. We would love it. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns, or the like, you can contact Mike, crushingiron@gmail.com. Or if you would like to send me an email about how our website is not search engine optimized, please reach out to me, c26coach@gmail.com, and I'll promptly delete your email without even reading it. But no, if you have any questions for me, reach out, c26coach@gmail.com. Love to hear from our listeners, unless you're telling me that our website doesn't do its job, and then, keep that to yourself.
It's coming. It's all in play. Everything's a process. So, all right, buddy. I appreciate it.
All right, dude. See you in a minute.
Yep.